Hey, it's Mark Henry, author of Dancing with Energy, Healing Magic and Mysticism. I'm here today to talk a little bit more about the occult and paranormal. Well, today I'm going to talk about the subject of servitors, and I gave lip service to the term servitors in one of my former videos when I was talking about magically created spirits, entities. In that video I was talking about egregores, which were the magically created spirits designed by a group of people to create a specific function. Well, today I'm going to be talking about servitors, which is a little bit different because this is something that is done by individuals. You know, if you wanted to create one, you certainly could, and I have created a few. This is a subject where I do have a good deal of expertise in. I think it's one of those situations, and I've mentioned this before, is that each of us has certain innate talents and abilities when it comes to these sorts of things, and some people may pick up a specific art much easier than another one. Some people are good at casting spells. Other people are maybe better at talking to spirits. Some people just excel at one specific area of magic, like love magic or money magic, whatever. But that doesn't mean that we can't become better. It just means that for some reason we've been granted with the gifts and blessings of a certain predilection for these sorts of things. So, servitors, magically constructed beings designed by a magician in order to create a specific effect, a specific goal or objective. Now, what sort of things could one, if they were inclined, create a servitor to do? Well, one is protection. Protection of your home, for example. You can create a servitor to alert you of any type of danger, suspicious people. You could create a servitor of protection if you felt like someone was honestly talking about you, starting rumors out to get you, trying to work for your downfall. They could also alert you, and they may be able to actually go out and find out what exactly is going on for you to intervene in some way. There are excellent influence of others around you, and also the influencing you, your own energy and your own psychology. So they can be used for transformation, or they can be used to, like I said, to create a specific effect. Let's see, one of the things that servitors can't do, and so this may be obvious to some, but a servitor cannot make someone do your bidding. In other words, they can do some influence, but they can't make someone your slave. They also can't solve all of your problems. What a servitor actually is, and this is my opinion, and this is the predominant idea out in those magicians that create servitors, is that it is an extension. It is a magic created. It's almost like a piece of your spirit that becomes a thought form that kind of goes out, but it is a part of you, and it goes out and does whatever you program it to do based on what your desire is. Now, some occultists believe that a servitor is actually, once you start the process of thinking about it, is actually creating a spirit that walks in to do these sorts of things for you. To be honest, there's no 100% way of proving it either way. So it really depends on your own personal beliefs. I like to think of it in the former way. So, as far as servitors are concerned, how does one go about creating it? What are the guidelines? Well, one, you have to have the proper attitude. One is that you have to get past a lot of uncertainty, a lot of doubt. This is actually maybe uncomfortable for people to think that they may be able to create an entity that can go out and influence the world. Makes some people uncomfortable. It makes them feel like that maybe they have too much power, but sometimes they don't want to mess with it at all. It rubs them the wrong way, and that's perfectly okay. Those people can go and practice other aspects of the occult, something that they feel more comfortable doing. But in order to start this whole process, one has to believe it's possible. One has to, in other words, suspend their disbelief. And if you do have just a little bit of doubt, then pretend that it's possible. Adopt okay, I'm going to see what happens, but I'm going to play along, and I'm going to pretend like I can create this spirit, and as a result of that, we will just see what happens. So suppose that I can, and I'll move forward from that. Sometimes that's just enough. But if you are someone who has just 100% doubt, and I'm just going to see what happens, you're going to fail in this process, because the whole part of creating this particular entity, what would you do? Create an entity of doubt? I mean, it's just not going to work. So once you get that piece of it down, the part of belief. And by the way, this whole idea of servitors became real popular in the 70s and 80s among chaos magicians. And part of chaos magic is that our beliefs have a particular power, and in that particular art, it is essential. So sometimes one would have to even change your beliefs in order to have a particular magical effect. Another part of chaos magic says that to be very flexible in your magic. Chaos magic is a response to the dogmatization of formal ceremonial magic that existed prior to that. Still exists today, but it is kind of a response to the almost like conservative, dogmatic magic of, leading up to that point. And what they are doing in chaos magic is they're saying, okay, we're going to work with a couple different things. We're not making it complicated. We're going to make magic simple. We're going to distill it down to what is necessary, what works, get rid of what doesn't work, and we'll go with that. If you go ahead and create magic that is too complicated for people to do, get all type of robes and expensive candles and everything, and it doesn't work, then what did you really do? Okay, so that's the idea behind chaos magic. So in any case, getting back to the servitors. So with servitors, you're going to create the vision. The vision it's almost like a story. If you were a fiction writer, and you're going to create the story of your character, of your spirit. And it's going to include different elements. For example, what is the purpose of your servitor? What do you want it to do? What is the goal, the overall goal and objective that you want from it? Do you want to increase your finances? Do you want it to somehow make you more attractive? Either of those things are possible. Of course, you might want to break it down into exactly what it will do in order to accomplish those things for you. Let's see some other things. You're also going to want to know about powers. What sort of things can it do for you? You can always think of it as superpowers, because it will, based on your intention, it can do some pretty amazing things. So you have to decide what you want it to do. Timing. Do you want to call on this entity, this servitor, when you want it to go out and do something, or do you want to have it running 24 hours a day, kind of like a light switch that's turned on? That's up to you. Appearance. To make it real, it needs to have a visual aspect. It needs to have an appearance. Let's say that, for example, you wanted to make yourself a little bit more attractive, a little bit of influence. Let's say you were interested in dating people and you just wanted a little extra edge. So let's say you had a particular, let's say, fascination with Asian women. I'm making this up, but what you can do is you can actually create your servitor to look like an attractive Asian woman who goes out and may bring in other females who would resonate with you, who would find you attractive, and do that sort of thing. So the visual part should be kind of compelling, and it should, if possible, be commensurate with whatever your goal is. Now, it doesn't have to look like a human. It could look like, if you were doing it for protection, some type of evil monster. If you want it to go out and be, and look for things that are possibly dangerous, you can put 100 eyes on it so it can see better. So it's really, the sky's the limit with this sort of thing. But create a good appearance, something that really strikes you, because the more real you make it, the more feeling you put in it, the more of an effect it's going to have, and the more I think you're going to really enjoy it and have success with it. Okay, so the next thing, you got to come up with a name. What I've done in the past is I've taken the powers, if you want it, or objectives, and you say, okay, I want it with finances, I want it to do X, Y, and Z. What I would do is I would take the first letter of those words, and that would be the name of the servitor. So it would be almost like an acronym. So do it that way. Calling. So this is part of the vision story. Calling. When you want to talk to your servitor, bring it in for a particular reason. You might want to feed it, because I'm going to get into that in a minute. You have to be nourished. It can't just operate by itself without a power source. How will you call it? I've in the past said the name 3 times, and that would be the signal for that servitor to come straight to me. Once, what happens if you're just thinking about something and you say the servitor's name, or you think about your servitor, you say it, then you call it, so but by accident. So I've designed it for 3 times. That's to demonstrate my intention to call it at that time, at that moment. Location. Your servitor, if you don't have it running out all the time doing things, you can have it be localized in a specific object. It could be a statue, it could be anything. However, this would be like kind of its home, place where it lives, place where it kind of just hibernates. But be sure that you put it in something that is not going to be accidentally broken, something that your roommate or mother or whomever's around doesn't take from you, or in other words, make it secure so that it's not going anywhere. It has to be kind of in a protected area if you feel like there's a possibility that something could happen to it. So that's the location, the fatal flaw. The fatal flaw is kind of like a plan B. Plan B says that there's a little bit of risk in any type of magic. So this is a risk management technique. Creating the servitor, what happens if somehow you're nourishing the servitor and something goes wrong and it starts doing things not exactly in the way that you want? Magic, just like anything, there's a little bit of uncertainty. Good things can happen. It could happen in the way that you desire, or you might be able to have something happen and it didn't happen in the way you wanted it to. It could be something destructive or something you don't like. A fatal flaw basically says that when you do X, the servitor will be instantly dissolved. Some people say like it'll die. Well, it's going to dissolve. It's going to go back in you. You're going to get back the energy. So you're going to have to come up with, okay, if I say this word and picture this, instantly, without conversation, it's going to deteriorate into nothingness and go back into me. That's important. You can call for its destruction. You can call for its to be rendered null and void. Or you can have if you don't have time for that, you can do the fatal flaw. So that's in there. Sigil. You're going to create a sigil of this spirit. You can take the letters that I mentioned, which are the first letters of the purpose. You can create a little design. That can be your sigil. That'll be important when you're creating the servitor, and you can also use it to call the servitor. Okay, so that is the whole vision process. This is what's going on in your head. This is the planning out. So the second step is the creation, which is the two steps of conception. That is actually putting this down on paper. You're concretizing it. It's not just in your head now. You're actually putting it down on paper to make it almost physical. So now you are using the power of the written word in order to bring it closer into reality. So gestation. Next step, you're going to, after you're writing it out, you're going to be thinking about your servitor. At this point, it is already starting to come out of the world of potential into the world of the material. It's getting closer and closer. The next step is going to be that you're about to bring it into life. So what you're going to be doing is picturing your servitor almost like a fetus in the womb. Eyes closed. It has not opened its eyes yet. It's still not quite born yet. You're going to have the sigil in front of you. You're going to take a couple deep breaths and blow your energy, your life force, into the sigil, into the picture also of the fetus, and you're going to say its name. When you do that, some people notice the eyes open up. I know this may be a little creepy, but it really does happen. What you're doing with your breath, that the breath has universally been seen as the life force, wind, breath, all of that, those associations in different spiritualities. You're bringing all of that energy into the servitor, and it's going to open its eyes. At that point, if you want to give it instructions, its first instructions, if you want to support it, give it words of affirmation, that's important. Now, one thing I didn't mention, but I can do it now because we're talking about support, is that your servitor can't just wander around without an energy source. It's not really hooked up to you in any specific way, like some type of tube where your energy is going out. What you actually have to do is you have to keep the thought of the servitor alive. You have to give it attention. You have to think about it. You have to call its name sometimes. You have to talk to it, almost like an imaginary friend. This types of interactions and attention actually feeds the servitor. And you can design a schedule if you want. You can meet with your servitor once a day for 5 minutes and talk to it, check in with it, thank it for its work, all that type of stuff. Do that on a regular basis, it will have the energy to fulfill your tasks. If you do not, it can wander around without a lot of energy, and that is where there are reports of servitors causing mischief in order to get energy or to cause harm. That's never happened to me, but there's enough of it noted in the literature to make me be really good about giving energy. Also, a word of warning is that some people use sexual energy to power their servitors. They may use the energy that is released. Let's say if you have a sex partner, they may use some of that, because that energy is just going somewhere. It's being released somewhere, so you'll say, well, you can use it for the servitor, help nourish it, help feed it to fulfill its goal. Or some people actually use, they don't have a partner, pleasuring themselves and using that energy for the servitor. Now, there's also in the literature that says that that's not a good idea, because that is very powerful life force energy, and that is like giving your servitor fast food. It's like giving it Burger King and Taco Bell and all these types of things, and they really like it, and it really gives them a charge, a lot of calories, and it makes them maybe, very bright and can do things. But like fast food, there's a come down, eat too much, and it's not a very healthy, regular source of energy, so many people avoid doing that. And I'm not here to legislate or to say what you can and cannot do. If you feel like that's something you want to experiment with, fine. But I would be remiss if I did not mention that there is a danger to that. In any case, I've been talking way too long. We're into 21 minutes. It's probably my longest video. So I will say goodbye. Please like and subscribe, and I will see you another time.